I'm Fraser MacDonald. I am Transport for London's Strategic Consultation Lead, and that means that I lead the function at TfL, which deals with all of our public consultation across all of our different transport modes. I've been there for coming up for 17 years now. I've done a lot of different roles at TfL, project management, programme management, and now I'm focused on the communication and engagement side of things. So yeah, quite a varied career that I've got. The biggest challenge we've got right now is just having the best possible quality dialogue with our stakeholders and communities. There's so much more of a greater polarisation in people's views. You know, it's one way or it's the other, and there's just that reticence to look and understand different people's perspectives, to want to have constructive dialogue. And also there's definitely a lot of challenges around the ways that people want to talk to you and the way they express themselves. We, for example, have recently had to really take steps to protect staff well-being and safety because of some of the sort of abusive or threatening ways that people want to engage with us. But I'd love to get back to a point where we feel so much more comfortable as an organisation, as a society, where we're a lot more constructive in the way that we talk. Also, people don't understand really what good consultation and engagement looks like. We throw around these lots of different terms as an industry, and for the public at large, they kind of say, I just want to express myself, I just want to tell you what I think, and you should listen to me and do what I say. And actually, we work in a really complicated industry. So being able to explain to people as well what the kind of the engagement and consultation process is, how they're involved, how we make decisions, and making sure that people understand that and feel that they've still got a voice that's being used constructively, I think that's quite a difficult one. There are barriers that are stopping other voices in the communities from sharing their experiences with us, those different types of experiences, those different issues that they might be considering as part of the transport proposals that we're making. If we're not being inclusive and accessible to those groups, then we're missing a huge amount of data. And again, how can we possibly make the best possible decisions for all of Londoners? It is groups from ethnic minorities, it's people with disabilities, mobility issues, neurodiverse individuals who sometimes could be impacted the most by what we are talking about. And actually, so it makes it even more important that we create a consultation and engagement environment where those people feel able to express themselves. I think the key thing to start with is understand your communities. There's a huge amount of data out there. We're very, very fortunate at TfL that I've got a huge number of different experienced, very professional teams that I can rely on. So they know the communities that we're working with, they can signpost us to certain groups to go and speak to and talk to. But I can also rely on a huge amount of data that we gather in London about the different communities we work with. So you've got to kind of do your research in the first instance, understand who it is you're trying to make this consultation inclusive and accessible to. Where are you unknowingly creating barriers for some people to get involved in this process? One of the things we're doing at the moment with the supplier is looking at our inclusion and accessibility from a disability perspective, and they're doing an audit for us, and they're hopefully going to be able to advise and show us from their sort of lived experience where the common issues might be, and there might be just some very simple things that we can do. And then I think there's also that kind of horizon scanning. It's going, what technology, what ways of working can we learn from the wider industry, from people like the Consultation Institute, from other members of the Institute? What are other people out there doing that has led to success and has brought communities in and helped that dialogue? And I think, you know, people with different disabilities, sometimes they've just felt that why bother talking to TfL if the door's not open, if there's not a really easy way for us to talk to you, you know, we've given up now. So I want to change that perception and start to get that message out there that actually we're trying to break down these barriers, and work with us, we'll do more to do that. This was about running a consultation that definitely targeted the older community, people with disabilities, people with mobility issues. It was all about looking at building a policy and approach for step-free access at underground stations that was going to be able to build on the work that we'd already done. And so we had to be really smart about saying, well, how do we connect with this community? We ended up with about, I think, 5,500 people that came back to us, but it was also our highest representation rate we had from the communities, those typically seldom heard or hard to reach communities who'd actually chosen to participate and were actually very, very vocal in what they expected and wanted from this. So as far as the kind of richness and quality of data, not only did we have a high response rate, but it was fantastic to hear all these different lived experiences and how people were travelling on the tube, the problems they had at tube stations, getting from the street level down to the platform, and what they wanted from us in the future. And that's the richness of data that makes a difference in society. But then I think also back to other things I've done in my career. I was really proud just to be part of the Olympic work we did back in 2012. That was proper community engagement because we as an organisation mobilised everyone to get out there, get out on the streets, talk to our communities, help people move around London. You actually felt a part of the kind of transport network, and it was a wonderful way to show how important it is to still get out there and be a face of your organisation, have conversations with people, help people. And it's so easy that in this kind of modern world that we're in now, that with all the digital tools that we've got, and we can kind of go, well, we'll consult and we'll engage online, but actually there's still a huge value in just connecting with people on a real life basis and being there in person to have conversations. My advice to people would be try and get a very blended skill set. Don't just stick off going down one career path. Try and broaden yourself out. I think perhaps if I spoke to other colleagues in the sort of comms world who are just from that background, they'd be kind of like, I don't quite think like you, Fraser, because you've got a whole different sort of rigour and process and approach, which I don't really work with because I like to express myself in this way. And now I've learned from them about all that expression, and I've also blended it in with all the rigour and process management that I've got from my project life. And I think I'm providing a better service for that, because I can see things from a project and delivery perspective, I can see things from the comms and engagement perspective, and I can see things from the customer perspective. And if you can blend all of that together, I think you've got a much better skill set to be able to tackle some of the challenges that we've got right now.